Whatever you can do, it is good, man.
All right, come on now. It's taking a little longer to go live here. What's up?
It's showing live. It's saying live 12
Is it?
seconds.
Is it? All right,
I
let
don't
me put
know.
this on. Well, I'm hoping it says having trouble connected. I hope I'm live.
I
Do
hear
you
you
show
fine.
live on your side, Dave?
It's showing live with a counter at 35 seconds.
Really?
Yep. It says you're in the show. Everybody can see you. That's the stuff that I could see.
Okay. Well, let's see if everybody can see us. Hopefully, oh, there it goes. Mine just showed live 47 seconds. I guess mine. I guess it's California time over here. Just I guess it needs to get caught up. I guess is what's going on.
You guys
So
slow down, and it's
yeah.
early in the morning.
Let's see.
I get it.
That's the beauty. We were off camera, right? We talk about live. This is kind of live stuff right now. That's what happens. It is what it is. So this is awesome, Dave. All right. So I want to introduce you first, Dave, and then we can get started on some of this stuff because you and I got to meet. We've been on some. I think we've been on some calls a little bit. You're because we're in CLA too,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Connect Leaders Academy, right?
Yep.
And then we got to meet. I don't know if we've been in rooms or not, breakout rooms. I thought maybe we have. I don't know.
I don't think we were, but I know we tried to connect before.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff, and it was great to meet you live. So
Yes, it was fun. It was fun. So, well, let me introduce you real quick, David, and we'll get started on this because you're also a podcaster, and we're going to talk about your big old bat. So today I got David Chametzky. He's a PathFinder coach and mentor who serves as a speaker, author, philanthropist, and a media host of the internationally ranked podcast Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. The primary focus of Dave's work is elevating you on a higher path. So this is your little bio that you had. So so you have Pete's Love and Bring a Bat. That's one thing you did. I think you spoke and you had your bat with you.
I
And you
did.
call
Yeah,
yourself Uncle Dave, right?
I do. Yeah. The Uncle Dave story comes from when I was working as a recovery coach, and we had gone up to every year in February we go up to kind of beat up the politicians up in Albany here in New York, and we tell them they need more funding to help people with substance disease. And by working with that, you go in there. So you go in there, and a lot of the people who go up there are these people who had horror stories, kids who have overdosed and or experienced extreme cases. So you go there and they tell their stories. Everybody wants to hear their story. And that wasn't really the real. That's not the reason why we go. The reason is to try to get the more funding. So we're in this senator's office, and I'm doing this, and I'm listening, and I didn't lose anybody yet, which I hope never to experience. I'm listening, and I'm being respectful, and they're all listening. And you could see the senator's aides kind of tune out. You could see their eyes. I've been in enough corporate meetings in my life to know when that white light is like, all right, we're done. And whatever they say is blah, blah, blah. It's Charlie Brown's, teacher. And I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I need you to focus on one thing. And everybody, it's that E.F. Hutton moment. And, I go, this is what we need. This is really what we need, not just to hear our stories. And each one of our stories, we could be here for days. And then I refocused it. And the senator started taking notes. They all started taking notes. His aides were taking notes. We walk out of the room and they're like, what the did you just do? I go, this is what you do every year. This is not what I do every year. And they're like, you're like everybody's uncle. You like take care of everybody. You're Uncle Dave. And that was what I became to known as Uncle Dave. My friend Stacy kind of nicknamed it. She's like, that's Uncle Dave. That's just being Dave. It's Uncle Dave. He's going to protect you as hard as you can. And he's going to make sure we get what we need.
That's good. That's good. That's how. Isn't it funny how we always get pet names that stick with us? I'm one of those that give out pet names. Everybody's always. I tell everybody here, my students look for pet names, and I'm like, you can't do that. I can't just do that. You have to. It has to come upon you when it's time.
Yeah.
It's time. You know what I mean? So pet names always kind of come with it. So you have a podcast now. How long have you been podcasting?
We're almost on 2 years. So February 20th will be 2 years. I have over 110, 15 episodes, and we keep cranking them out, man. We keep having lots of guests, lots of interesting guests on it. It's called Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. And yes, I said bring a bat. If anybody notices, I have a New York accent. I'm not a tough guy, but I know how to bring a bat.
So you brought that on stage when we were in speaker competition together, and you brought your bat on stage. You have a picture of your bat. You kind of look like Negan from The Walking Dead with it, just a little bit of those barbed wire.
Lucille. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and do you have a name for your bat or not? He
I
names
really
his bat.
don't. I have two. I have a depending on what I have, I either bring out my green bat or the teal bat or the black bat. So I have two just based on what I'm wearing. But they become a part of you, though. I really kind of protective over who swings my bat and things like that.
Isn't that funny? It's kind of
Yeah.
like my karate belt. I don't even like people touching it. Stuff becomes part of you, and that is what it is. So let's talk about it. Where did it come from? Where did the bat come from, and how do you utilize it for other people?
Yeah, so I utilize it a lot of different ways, but how it came from the type of mentoring programs that I create is talking about peace and love. And while everybody can understand those boundaries and things like that, they know what it is for them and they knows those definitions. It's bringing a bat. It's just different. I want to that yin yang. I want to kind of make you smile, but I also want to talk about it. So what the bat really, really installs is your boundaries. When you swing a bat, you know your boundaries. You know where you are, and the goal of life is to hit your sweet spot. And anybody who's swung a bat and hit their sweet spot, it doesn't mean you're going to hit a home run. It just means that you did the best that you could do. And that's what I like to talk about is knowing that those non-negotiables that we need to have. You might not like those balls in the dirt, in a lot of ways, but you also can make sure that when you hit your sweet spot, you definitely know you did the best that you can, and nobody can criticize you for that.
Well, so what made you come up with? So most of the times, right, we talk about peace and love. It's because we've not always had that in life. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, a lot of people resist both or don't know that they're resisting it. Even just the word peace, just sitting within calmness with ourselves. We blame the outside circumstances. Oh, Mark was loud and I couldn't get peace. I'm like, anybody could be yelling in my face. I can get peace. I don't always get peace. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. But what we need to do is learn how to become peaceful within ourselves. And that's where I also talk about love, because if we can love ourselves. So about 4 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, I tried to kill myself. I knew all the right resources. I was a mentor. I was helping people. I knew how to assist people to get through what they needed to get through. But for myself, I wasn't doing what I needed to do. Like you probably like people you've seen. They might be your clients. They might come to your gym to work out, but they don't always really come, right? They sign up. They're good for that first week. After that, you tail off. And so I wasn't taking care of myself. And when I got into a really dark period, my dad had just passed. I was in process of moving my mom. I was having some marital challenges, teenage kids. Life gets too heavy. And if you don't take care of yourself, things could happen and you go down a dark path. And I went down that dark path for myself. It was not something for anybody else. And I don't mind talking about it, as I've shared previously on a TEDx stage, as well as on my podcast. Mental health and mental wellness. It really is not just the health, but our wellness is so important.
Yeah, I've been down. I've been down that dark road myself. I haven't been where I had suicidal thoughts, but I've had thoughts of taking someone else out.
Yeah,
So,
taking somebody
okay,
else out. I've been there, but
you know what I mean? And I'm like on like being serious about it, like I was gonna do it. And um I've not talked about this story on stage before, but mine was, how it didn't happen is I'm sitting in a car with a uh with um with a weapon, and I'm waiting. And I just happen to have a friend, a lifelong friend that I've known since I started martial arts. We're best of friends, and he moved to Arizona. And that night, he just happened to call me on the phone and goes, "Hey, man, Mark, where you at? I'm in Chatsworth." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're in Chatsworth?" And he says, "I'm in Chatsworth. Let's go get some dinner. What are you doing right now?" And I'm like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you what I'm doing right now." And that's what stopped that night, that intervention. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you never know, and I'm a firm believer of the universe or God. For me, I
Hmm.
was an active for 36 hours. I was in an active state where I was trying to kill myself. I had the plan. I was in the process of initiating the plan, and then when one plan failed, I initiated a few others, and and each time I was told by it wasn't a friend. I had wrote 50 letters to people to explain to what I was doing, but I had gotten I don't really know. It was a Grandpa Mike, which I've been told who it is. It's not a family member. I don't have a Grandpa Mike. It was a higher power. It was somebody reaching above, saying it's not your time, and you need to go back and help people with their stories. Help people, you know, talk about your story to make sure that other people don't. And I've been pretty successful in that by sharing my story, but also allowing people the safe space that they can talk about their stories as well. And I appreciate you sharing your story because we get to that point, and unless
Hmm.
we know our right resources, it really becomes frustrating. And what happens? Life becomes heavier and heavier if we don't use our resources to lighten it up.
Well, don't you? I don't know about you, but I know that as much as I was in that dark place, doesn't not make you a better coach and mentor since you went through it. Correct?
Yeah, well, that's truthfully the story. The difference between a coach and a mentor to me, a coach might tell you exactly what to do, where a mentor will give you space, but also understand because I've been there. I've been in those pits, those dark pits. So when you tell me that, I might not be in the same pit, but I can understand it from my level and offer you what I've, the learnings that I have. And that's my goal is to try to use my stories to then move people forward or allow them to see how that they can go through and do the same things.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I've had those same thoughts and being able to. Isn't it weird though? I'm listening to your story too, and being a mentor and everything else, and I teach self control and stuff like that, and I barely had any myself. You know what I mean? It was
Well,
is a weird thing.
that's the thing is because we all at some point have what I'll call the ICTA disease. I know that already. And don't worry, I know it. I'm good. I know how to do it. And we don't think about actually doing it, right? You knew all your resources, how to calm yourself as a martial arts expert, and you weren't doing it in your personal life, right? We have to do it all in every aspect of our lives. That's why when we talk about the bat again, it's that balance. When you have that balance, you're able to swing to hit the sweet spot. It's having that balance in life. It's not just having peace in our lives. It's not just having love in our lives. It's knowing what our non-negotiables are. What does that conversation look like? And having that conversation with ourselves. Because when I was the first question right after I tried to hurt myself, doctor walked over to me and says, "Do you love yourself?" And at that moment, I looked at them like they were talking Chinese. It didn't make any sense. And I had to think about it. And once you start thinking about it, the answer is no. Now, if you ask me that question
Hmm.
now, today, it's completely different. And I can tell you a million reasons why I wouldn't go back to that darkness. That doesn't mean I won't experience darkness, but I've learned how to manage it. And I know the past year, actually, I managed an awful lot of darkness and I still was able to stand tall and regroup myself in ways that I would have never been able to handle previously.
So in your mentoring and stuff that you do and stuff like that, do you notice that your clientele is mostly men or a
Th th
mixture?
it's still a mixture. When I first started, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna help men," and I help a lot of veterans. I do, but the problem with men is it's tough. We all think we can. We're all taught, "Come on, rub it off." I mean, even when I first started talking about this peace and love stuff. You know, I had friends who were like, "Come on, Mary, come on, stop with that crap." And I'm like, no, think about it. If you do this, and they're resistant, even just talking about it, and it's really hard for a lot of people because of the way we grew up. Look, you and I are around the same age, right? You know, why are you crying for? You know, go beat them up instead. Go, you know, don't let the bully win. You know, all those things. It's okay to react differently and acknowledge your feelings. That's all pushing down feelings that we now. I acknowledge my feelings. That's why when people go, "How you feeling today?" Some people get to, "Yeah, I'm okay." But like whenever I don't feel well, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not really feeling that great. I'm safe. I'm okay, but I'm not, I don't feel good." I don't want to even lie to anybody. If you have enough guts to ask me how I'm doing, you have enough guts to, and I respect you enough to say, "Hey, this is exactly what I'm doing."
It's so true, everything you're saying. It's funny, we have a group, we have a life group, from church, right? And,
Mhm.
most churches have these life groups, and they kinda meet on it's an 8-week thing, and they kinda meet at people's houses, and there's different topics. So maybe you got singles, and then you got a married, and young adults, or whatever, divorced, and you're kinda getting in people that are familiar in your space. And, I can't stand those, right? I can't stand them, right? I kept telling them, they tried to get me in these men's groups, and I said, "Listen, man, I'm not sticking around singing Kumbaya and tell you my sad stories." I said, "I'm not doing it." And, they're like, "You don't understand, what can happen from there." And I said, "I'm telling you, I'm not doing it." So, um, I said, "But I will lead a group. And the group is going to call Bible Beatdown, or Jesus and Jits is what we're going to do." And so they come to my school, and we kind of fight, and we work out together, or we do jujitsu together. And we just did one yesterday. I probably had 30 guys here yesterday. See, that's different, because after you sweat, bleed together, there's a bond that starts to form, and walls will start to come down, when you're physical in a, I guess, a typical, alpha type setting, right? Guys that are just not going to do it. And that's when the walls come down. That kind of setting, if you've bled with me, or you've sweat, we've tried to choke each other out, I have a different bond with you and a different respect level for me to open up. So I can see how that can be for men. Men are they're a tough being, especially in our generation. Our generation is, man, shut up, buttercup, suck it
Y-
up, buttercup type stuff.
Yep. No, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I eventually brought in the bat. I've been resisting, to be honest with you. I resist using the bat. I figured the podcast was something different than my coaching practice, which is, on the path, and it's personal attitudes towards happiness and all that stuff. But once I walk around with the bat, and I just ordered a copy of Lucille, as we're talking about, from The Walking Dead. Because people are like, dude, you got to have a picture with yourself with Lucille, and you know,
Yes.
but it's also part of the bat where I worked with some veterans. Let me talk to you about the bat. And one of the things is like board breaking. Like you do board breaking. I'm not trained in martial arts. I've done a little taekwondo. I've done a little bit here, but I'm not trained in doing it. But baseball, I've played baseball my whole life, and I've taught people how to hit. Uh, you know, and really what it comes down to is when I go with it, I work with veterans, and what I do is teach them how to swing. And so there's guys who already knew how to swing, but then when you do like the board breaking, when you hit a baseball, you focus on that one piece. You focus on a word and what that feeling is, because that's usually what causes us the delays. It's that piece inside of us that breaks us, that we're holding on so tightly to the negativity. And if we want to hit the sweet spot, you hit the sweet spot by finding the word that you want to overcome, you want to break through. And what does it feel like? And that's what I love doing, is then teaching people who might not have ever swung a bat. I was at a speaking competition with a woman who never swung a bat in her life. I mean, even when we met in Jersey, Juanita had never swung a baseball bat in her life. As athletic as she is, as highly trained as she is, she had never swung a baseball bat, never had the opportunity. So I taught her how to swing a baseball bat. And she was like, "Oh my God, this feels so great." And there really is power about moving the energy, and that's why we do board breaking. I mean, it's not only to show accomplishment, but it's also to move our energies to a different level. And when we're able to do that, there's a lot of power in behind that.
That's true. That's true. Definitely board breaking is a confidence thing. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
not a, or breaking the bricks like I do. I remember when I was heavily competing, and I would set bricks up, and when I got done, it looked like an earthquake hit this place, man. I'd break, probably 75, 80 bricks in stacks of 10, 15. And I remember I remember the feeling of doing that, right? That pure concentration, being able to
Mhm.
break through something and stuff like that. And I've used that analogy quite a bit in my own school. You know what I mean? Um, People don't break wood because of fear. Well, Daniel Gomez is a perfect example. He wanted to break these bricks, and he asked me, he goes, "Hey, I want to do this while I'm here." And I said, "Okay, I'll teach you how to do it." And I said, "I think you can do it." And he and then the next day he's kind of ducking out of it. And I'm like, "Oh, you're not ducking out. You're not going to tell me you're going to do it. And then you're going to duck out. That's just not going to happen. You're not going to get on stage and be this motivational speaker and then tell me that you're not going to do it now. Because we're definitely doing it now." And so I took him in the room and I kind of taught him, but he missed the first 2 times. Right.
Mhm.
And I said, "You're not focused, man. You're not focused. You're not focused about going through. You're letting fear tell you that you can't do something instead of just letting loose." And I said, "I'm going to break them for you. You're going to watch me do it." And then I broke them, and I said, "Now, so you're going to be your turn." And then, of course, I got them all hyped up. "You better get there. You better break that son of a bitch." You know what I mean? And then he ended up breaking it. Man, he was like a kid in a candy shop. It was the funnest thing I did of the whole weekend, was teaching Daniel Gomez how to break some bricks.
Yeah, I wish
I
I would
just
have had that
enjoyed doing that.
opportunity. I had to get back in the car. But that's one of those things that I guess you and I are gonna have to meet again. You're out in LA.
I am.
Uh, yeah, so we're gonna have to meet. I'm coming out there March 3rd for the Best You. I don't know if you know about it. It's at the Los Angeles Convention Center, March 3rd through 5th,
So what is
and
that?
it's the Best You. There's a bunch of speakers. I'm going to be speaking at it, and it's a free ticket. So like, come on down. We can.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, for sure, Dave. If you're going to be in town, I mean, Los Angeles Convention Center is right around the corner from me. I mean, it's a 30-minute drive. Well, it depends on traffic. It can be 30 minutes or two and a half hours
Yeah, but
to get there.
look,
But
I live in outside of New York City, so I know I can get into the city in a half hour, or I can get in the city for 2 hours. It all depends
that's
timing
it.
and traffic. But yeah, no.
So
So
tell me
I
about
thought
this speaker competition you're doing. Is a competition, or are
it's not
you
a
speaking
competition.
at something?
It's not a competition. This is just speakers. It's a bunch of motivational speakers. It's in this huge event. Next year, they even want to make it even larger. It's at the LA Convention Center, and you're going to hear some high level, I mean, really high level speakers who are going to talk to you and teach you about different techniques, different opportunities that you can to learn how to overcome what you need to overcome, how to improve business. There's going to be uh, a lot of different speakers who will teach you how to reduce stress, anxiety, what you need to do to overcome better marketing. You'll have some really high end people who will get you on stages if you're looking to do that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then one of the speakers I just heard was going to be announced, who would like to meet. I mean, there's so many I want to meet this upcoming that weekend is Lee Steinberg, the famous agent, sport agent. And I've always said the work that I do, because it's so quick, could help so many agents and clients like that. It's incredible. I've helped people within a month getting over lifelong stresses and phobias. Well, phobias are diagnosed, things that they're fearful of.
Interesting. Yeah, I had no idea of that, and that's called Unleash You. Is that what it's called?
The best you, the best
The
you.
best you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
I'm
I
gonna look
think
that up.
that's even, yeah, I think that's even the website, thebestyou.com. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
so definitely. So are you gonna be here for all the days, or are you just
yeah,
kinda
I'm
flying
coming
in
in on
for
the
one and
2nd.
then
I'm coming in on March 2nd, and I'm leaving at some point on the 5th. So we'll definitely have some opportunity to see each other live.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. Off camera,
Yeah.
off show, we'll look at that, and I'll make sure I meet up with you for lunch or something over there, or dinner or something for sure. That'd be good. That'd be a good time. Well, let's talk about the. You did something. I think you said you've got to speak on a 10x stage. Is that correct?
Yeah, a TEDx stage, yeah. Those are usually ideas that change the world, and the idea that I put out into the world is we all have a phoenix within ourselves, and by being a phoenix within ourselves, that really just means how we rise, as you said, off camera, and I'm sure and you shared a little bit on camera as well. Life has not been a straight line for you.
Oh,
We've gone through some deep, dark stuff and the ashes. And the first time, May it was May 11th, 2006. I was in the middle of a divorce, and I'm in this conference, and I hear that this is the first time I heard Maya Angelou's "Still I Rise" poem, and all I kept on thinking about was the phoenix. And I said, I'm not gonna allow a divorce to hold me back. I'm not gonna allow. I need my girls to be in a women's conference like I'm sitting in there. I need to make sure that they're set up, and I need to do this. And I rose out of those ashes. I've had other ashes behind that, including that suicide attempt. So, we need to learn to what we need to do. And by doing that, that's really why I talk about taking people to the next level to soar. Is when you're able to soar, you see things at a different level, different perspectives. The higher you go, the more you learn. As learning doesn't stop when you could be a whatever belt you are. There's always still learning and improving on lots of different aspects of our lives.
yeah, it's 100% true. I say that all the time. I mean, everybody gets they get kind of googly eyed when you talk about your rank and stuff like that. That's why you don't really hear me talk about it too much. What rank and stuff I am, because I tell them, I said, higher ranks do, in the martial arts world, when you hear 8th degree, 9th degree, 10th, you just think of this, I don't know, this kind of a guru, magical, whatever. And I tell everybody, I said, I'm an 8th degree black belt in Tong Soo Do, but you know what that means? That just means I've never quit, and I just kept showing up, and now I'm old. That's what it means. And I said, so, as the years pass, you have these work stops, so when you are working and you are training and you continue showing up, all of a sudden there's a work stop, right? And the work stop is you get another belt, and you can keep on coming to class and training. And perseverance means the next work stop is another belt. And I said, that's really kind of what that means. I'm not a big, I know everybody calls me Master Cox and stuff like that, or the Grandmaster, at that rank, GMC, right? And I tell him, I said, I hate that title. I said, because I might be that in this arena, but last weekend I was training with a bunch of guys and getting choked out and I'm choking people and getting choked out. So I said, am I really a master? I'm a master of continuing to work. So I get that for sure.
Yeah,
I
and I
like that. I
think
like you talked about.
yeah, I think you'll agree. Is no matter you if you always think that you're not a master, and you're looking for mastery of our lives, and because there's always something you can learn. I'm sure there's somebody who might never have any martial arts experience walk into your dojo, and there's something that you can learn from them, the way that
Oh,
they see things, right?
100%.
And,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how much. In fact, we should always be careful that knowledge isn't one of those things that we hold on top of a pillar, because then that's a pillar that you can fall easily off of. Knowing that what we don't know is learning to do better, but keep learning and seeing different people's perspectives, learning that's part of that growth. That's another thing that takes you to that higher level. And you saw, I mean, again, when we were met in Jersey at being the last month, that was, there was all. I mean, you name any one of those speakers getting up on stage, they were all top-notch people. I know when we did have the competition, I'm like, I don't know who's gonna do it. And when they announced my name, I was like, what? How'd like I saw myself still learning and doing things, and I still continue to learn. I mean, that's why even with the TEDx talk, like I just recently read some reviews from that TEDx talk, and people are like, oh, he looked scared. He was this and that. Yeah, it's a speech that you have to memorize every word. I don't like memorizing it. As you know, you
Yeah.
and I like the same thing. Get me on a stage, I will get you what you need. You maybe memorize it. Yeah, there's a little bit of a challenge. I've done keynotes and things like that, but not having that. And that was also the first time I ever told my story out in public about me trying to kill myself. And I knew once you got the cat out of the bag, you're not getting it back in. And, you know, I had hopes for it. So I don't mind that my presentation wasn't that good. I know the most important thing out of that speech is 9 families reached out to me, heard my story, and wanted to understand the mindset that I was going through. And some of those people needed help. So I was able to get them to a therapist. Again, I know my lane. So I stay in my lane. When it's above my pay grade, I don't mind handing it off.
That's so good, Dave. That's and that's the thing. Well, I think that anytime you have comments and stuff like that, right? The victory goes to the man that's in the arena doing it, as Roosevelt says, right? And that's famous speech,
Yep.
right? The
Yeah.
victory
Right.
goes to the man that's in
Exactly.
it. Not to
Yep. It's so easy to say, hey, Mark, you could have done this better, or Dave, you could do this better. 100%. I'm not putting myself out there going, oh, I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm the best. Can I help you become a TEDx speaker? 100%. I know what it takes to do that. I know I'm also a DTM in Toastmasters. So I'm at the highest level of Toastmasters. Does that mean that everything I do is crisp? I'm not crisp, man. I am who I am. I'm the guy who brings the bat, but I'm also the first guy to give you a hug when you need a hug because I'm comfortable with myself. I mean, during that weekend, somebody was teasing me about that I had a pink shirt. And I go, yeah, I know who I am. I go, you want testimonies on that also? I can give you some testimonies about that. I go, I know who I am. It doesn't matter. I am who I am.
So I didn't know that you had that either. So let's dabble into that real quick, because after the speaker competition, I'm super competitive, right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, what, I analyzed that, right? And I'm like, man, I thought I would hit that out of the park, but I will say that if I was a little bit lower down on the rung, right? I think I went third or fourth, right? If I was like, man, I would have done a different. The feel of the room that day was a little bit different. It was really some heartfelt type stories in there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I would have went a different route. I think I would have talked about the phone call that I made to my black belt. I would talk about 45 and on my belt, the number 45 on my belt, and that's Carlos Mata's number and his black belt number in my school. And I'm the one that called him on a Wednesday night and to go teach class because I was too far away and it was super raining. And I called him and said, "Hey, Carlos, can you go down to the studio? Can you run the black belt club class for me and stuff like that?" And he said, "Oh, yes, sir. I'll be down there right away." Went in his car and he was killed by a drunk driver on the way there.
Oh God.
On my phone call. And I remember being in his cat, going to the viewing. I was in the room by myself with him. And he has in his uniform and stuff like that. And then they have his belt tied wrong, right? The belt's tied wrong inside the casket. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to fix that. I can't. And I'm kind of reaching down there, and I just knew that I'm the one that called and asked you to go do this. And here I'm fixing your belt in the casket. That was a rough deal for me.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm getting chills about that. I lost somebody to a drunk driver also. That's something I didn't know about. Another connection we had, my girlfriend, we were, when I was 20, and she was at Stanford. I couldn't get at Stanford, so it was a long distance relationship. But we had known each other since we were 13. That was it, man. That was my life. And she was stressed out for school. I said, go to the party. She was walking on the street and a drunk driver came and hit her. And I was the one who talked her into going to the pool. And where I go with this is I carried that guilt for 30 years. So during COVID, when I was by myself, recovering from my own suicide attempt, and I started reading some things, I thought that would cheer me up, about my love. I mean, I still love that woman. And all of a sudden I'm bursting out in tears, crying. And until then, I never even thought about survivor guilt. And then I had it and I was holding on to it. And man, that's why knowing all the stuff that you go through in life, it holds on. The more that you hold on to it, the more you don't know where it's going to come out. And that's why it's so much better to get it out and heal yourself in a way, because I can only imagine what you've experienced, because of Carlos.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a tear in my eye thinking about it right now. Still, it's
Yeah.
still, I wrote about it a little bit in my book, and, the phone call to the family to say, "Hey, I'm writing a book. Is it okay if I put Carlos?" Of course they were just ecstatic that to keep his name alive. And, but yeah, that's the story of 45. And if I would have went with that speech, it would have got a different vibe in the room.
Yes, I
And,
think your speech was fine. I
and,
think I think what it was. It also could have been time wise. Remember, there was a time limit.
mhm.
So I think it might have been time, because that's why I'm telling you, as a participant, I never know what I look like up there. I know I put my heart into each speech that I give, but I'm watching everybody else, and I'm like, man, what a story! Wow, what a story!
Oh, yeah, the stories were
Yeah,
incredible.
and I'm like, I mean, even our friend Jonathan Ellis. So his wasn't a story, but he was motivating. He was very motivating, very positive, and I'm like, nope, wasn't better. Wasn't better. If I was the judge, nope, nope. And I've done judging at contests before, so I'm like, all right, it's okay. And that's why when I was the first name that they called to make the finals, and I was like, David who? Like, like, not thinking that I don't qualify. I knew I did the best I could do. But I also knew that, hey, it was tough for the judges, and I spoke to the judges afterwards. They were like, "No, it was very tough." But that's what it is when you're around people, and that's why you do surround yourself with better people. That's the important part about being in communities, and to push yourself, because it pushes you that much further. Your talk wasn't just because you didn't make the 3 finalists. It was amazing. I wouldn't change a word at it. And look at how much more you have the ability to. I wouldn't necessarily change it. It was just, you know, uh, again, I saw the other speakers, and you just never know how it resonates or what they're looking at.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, it was good. Those were some incredible type of stories anyway. So, and Marilyn, um, she told me, right before she got on stage, she's like, "I just don't want to do this. I think I'm going to go sit down." And I said, "No, hell no, you're not going to do that, man." I just
I
gave
had the
her a hug
same
and said, "You got to
conversation
get
with
up
her.
there and do."
I had met Marilyn in July, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't really feel that good. I'm not really gonna. I don't think I'm gonna go up there and do the contest today." I was like, "Get up there. You got your whole family here. Stop with that."
Yeah,
Like, I go, if you're not doing it for anybody else, you're doing it for your kids. Yeah, she had both her sons there, and I think her daughter was in the audience as well. Like, that's what they need to see. They need to see that you did something that you might not have felt the best about doing, but you move forward, and that's really important.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. So when I came back from that, right, I kind of analyzed like, okay, man, what the heck? I got to make sure, man, because this is the next step for me.
Mhm.
Is I've got a pile full of stuff that I've learned from the mat to life, right? And I said, okay, this is my next step. I want to take what I've learned in the martial arts, how I've taught people to make money in the martial arts so their schools can stay open, to an organization that I head, which is about 12 other schools that I'm the leader in as far as helping them with Krav Maga. And so I said, I want to take this to the next level and be this speaker and be that's where I want to go. Take my book. I'm going to do another book on tactics in black belt tactics in business and life, right? And then
Oh,
more of
awesome.
a right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
And I think you're right there.
And
Again, you're probably, I think you and I are very similar. I loved your presentation, and I thought you were better than I was. I'm really being honest, not because I'm on your show. Um, Really, I think it's so hard to do exactly. Be you. Don't worry, and that's why. So when I tease people about my green suit or the teals that I use, um, I'm like, I don't care. I used to, the first time I put on the green suit, I was like, oh my god, people are gonna laugh, people are gonna this. Now I don't really give a, I don't really care.
right.
What I know who I am, and either you like me or you don't, and if you don't, that's okay. But if you like me, then I'm exactly. I believe authenticity it's all about authenticity. I look, do what you want, but you don't need to change anything. You were great. I love the presentation. I love when you broke the bottle, and like
Yeah.
there's so much that you're already there. Uh, it's just getting out on more stages and getting more visibility to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I appreciate all those too. So I went home. When I went home, I heard that you're high in the Toastmasters. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna look at the Toastmasters around here
Yeah.
because I never really did that before, right? And then I found a group right here in my hometown, and I'm like, huh, what the heck? I said, this sounds fun. This sounds like fun. And
It is.
so I think I'm doing my first meeting this week. And unfortunately, it's on Zoom. You know what I mean? I'm like, I hate that, man. I'm like, I got to get in front of people,
Yeah,
but they don't do it that way.
yeah. People have gotten too comfortable with the Zoom, but they're starting to move back into the live because Toastmasters like to get together. So it's a great organization, and but depending on circumstances and the clubs, it's nice. It was nice during the pandemic. I attended club meetings, all over the world, and but
That's awesome.
there's still something to be said. I have to say, there's still something to be said about something being live, walking over and talking to people live.
Yeah, for sure. I'm better in that setting anyway. But so let's talk about let's talk about what your book is called.
Yeah. So my book is called, When Your Heart Says It's Your Time to Soar. It's again some personal stories, including where I mentioned that her name was Sandy. I used her name because she passed, and um, so there's some inspirational stories and jottings, heartfelt jottings. It makes you think about it. So throughout the book, I also have these Pathfinder perspectives. I like to talk a little bit about the path, but so that way you hear my story, but how you can relate to it. We've all had that first love. We know what that is. And what are you doing even now? It's Valentine's Day. I don't care if you're single, you should have somebody to love, and that love should start from you. We have 3 sections in our lives, same as in the book, is that first heartbeat. The heartbeats, the beginning, whatever beginning you do, we sometimes lose that, even though our heartbeat is. So if you're in a relationship, how does that heartbeat change over time, and why? Are you seeing the things the same way? And that's where I go into that next section, talking about the path. We all walk on paths that get obstacles in our way because of our limiting beliefs, our abilities to then not see the road to be on the right path, and we need to clear that. And then when you find your time to soar, you know what it is getting to that next level, getting that belt, whatever that next level looks like for you. Your second book, you're speaking on larger stages, assisting more people. There's so many different ways what it can happen on what you do. Because one of the stories in the book that I last year I think I shared with you, I had a pretty rough year. February 10th, my best friend passed away unexpectedly, and he left a mom who had Alzheimer's, and then my own mom passed at the end of the year. So I dealt with a lot of death
Mm,
last year. But the story, when I started writing the book, was about my friend Kevin, about perseverance. He wasn't physically able to do a lot of things. He was always the last guy picked and wasn't very coordinated. But when I went through a divorce, I said, "Look, we got to go someplace." And we went out to Yosemite National Park, and you probably have been there, living out in California. We walked up Nevada Falls. Now, Nevada Falls is 5 miles round trip, so you're like, "All right, that's not a big thing," but it's 2,000 feet in elevation, so it's pretty steep. And in the middle of it, it's a rough walk because it's so steep. And I turn to him, and I see he's struggling. He's pushing it everything he has, perseverance. He's pushing that. And I go, Kev, nobody's gonna ever know if you made it to the top. You want? We tell them we made it to the top. I go, I don't care, or I'll go take some pictures. I'll get to the top, take some pictures, and you could say you were there. And he goes, no. Pushed himself up and kept on going. Took us a lot longer than it might have, than I guess the required time or the estimated time that you have. But he pushed himself and persevered, got to the top. And the rest of his life, we'd always tease about it. I'd be like, yeah, it's not like Nevada Falls. And he would smile because there's that part in ourselves, that peace in our heart, that perseverance that we know we're going to push ourselves as hard as we can to get what we want, that is going to be our mountain that we have to climb. And that's what I that's really what the book is about. It's about the perseverance. There's some stories, there's some romantic things that I put in there. There's some that, not by any names. People can identify whatever they want to identify. There's also a story. The day my dad died, um, my father-in-law walked over to me after the funeral and everything like that, and he gave me a hug. And I'm sure you've had those type of hugs, Mark. Is a hug that you didn't know you wanted, the hug that you didn't know you were going to get, but a hug that you needed in the worst way. And it was a
Hmm.
hug to just saying it's going to be okay. He just, but you go for the handshake. I always give him a handshake. He's really, Lou is really one of my favorite people. He's really a hero for me in so many ways. And he just pulled me in hard. I wasn't expecting. And at that moment, I broke. My dad and I didn't have a good relationship mostly throughout our lives, but I needed that hug and I didn't know I needed it. He knew. And those are those special people in lives that you can't ever, ever forget.
Yeah, that's an awesome story right there too. That's just great. Sal's on here saying hi.
Hey,
Sal
Sal,
Morales
how's it
is
going?
saying
Yeah.
hi. Maryland's
Sal's
husband.
he is the easiest going guy, man. All the kids are running around and he lets Marilyn do everything that she needs to do. But he's amazing.
Yeah, him and I really, we became close with that thing. I like him a lot. He's definitely a cool cat. Plus, he looks like he looks like a mobster. I told him that. I said, I'm gonna sit next to you. You look like one of those mobsters from you know, the old gangster movies.
Yeah.
So
Luca
it's
Brasi.
awesome.
Right.
That's correct. That's correct. So will you talk to me a little bit about some of your coaching stuff that you do, right? And how you help others deal with anxiety, right?
Mhm. Sure.
So do you feel that anxiety is one of these highest things right now, especially since COVID? Uh, uh, How about your own children? Do they have it? Because some of my children,
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, I don't need, I pull my hair out, man. I'm like, I don't even know how to, I have no idea how to help. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? My personality is like, suck it up, go to the gym, push some iron and choke people. And that's going to make me feel all better. My anxiety goes away real quick, but it's not the
Well, me
case.
too. So the answer is I actually talk to people about using their hands, and really, so if you remember, so I'm showing everybody now. You rub your hands really nice and slow for about 10 to 15 seconds. You're going to start feeling calmer. Start watching your breath, and by doing that, it actually creates delta waves, which are the brain waves that we operate, that we use when we go to sleep. So it's brain waves that we're already doing and it will reset yourself. It'll calm you down. Now, it's also better in your sense rather than rubbing your hands, rather than choking, right? It's going to calm you down differently. But it really goes down to finding the way to reset yourself. And again, bringing in that peace and love, right? Bringing in that peace. How can you calm yourself? So there's a lot of different techniques that I do, and I've taught people. That's just the beginning of how to overcome. There's reasons why we're anxious. Sometimes we're anxious because we're watching too much of the news. And this is not a political statement, but depending on what you're hearing, all you're hearing is the negative, the stuff that's going to sell,
Mhm.
right? This guy's bad, that guy's bad. And we hear that. Feed yourself differently and finding the right mentors. That's where the power really comes into it. And learning those right resets, because I know no matter what's going on. So even last year when I was going through a lot of stress, did I raise my voice at times? Hell yeah. That's still who I am because I have some of the other things, but I knew how to reset myself much quicker than I had ever reset myself. I mean, I was dealing with some major stuff. Again, my friend passed away unexpectedly. They're all looking to somebody to take care of things. His mother had Alzheimer's. What do? We needed to make sure that nothing stopped her care. What do you do? All right, I'm the guy who's doing it. And it's stressful because then it's not only I'm taking care of my own mom, being the caregiver. Being a caregiver is so important, and that's where, as men, if we can learn that, swinging a bat. There's so many different things. That's why at live events, I try to bring out my batting net that I have in the back of my car to move that energy. It's moving the energy, stopping the stress. That's why for you, going to the gym and moving that energy, moving that iron helps you out. It's one of the ways that move your energy. And, as Sal just said, we are only human. We need to manage the human, right? This is a human experience. We're all spiritual people in a human experience. And that's really the biggest power that we can have, because when we do that, that's really the changes. That's what helps us manage exactly what we need to manage while we're going through the stresses. You're going to have stress. I still have stress in life. This isn't going to be saying, oh, just sit on a mountain and it all goes away. It doesn't go away. You got to be the one who has the power. And that's why I like to teach people about self-empowerment, how they can reset themselves really quickly and overcome things. I mean, I've, again, helped people who fears in life. Well, a woman came to me. She goes, in 6 weeks, you have to get me on a plane. I just bought plane tickets for a trip with my friends. And I go, okay, no problem. She goes, you're never going to be able to do it. I can't even drive past the airport. I go, I'll bet you. And so we did it in 4 weeks, but we used the other 2 weeks to really reinforce some of the other things, the other challenges she had. And then what happened? She goes on this flight. She travels all this way. It was an international flight, and they lost her luggage. Calls me up, panicking up. Hey, Dave, they lost my luggage. What do I do? And I just go, hey, you go shopping. I go, you'll get your luggage at some point. They'll track it, but you need clothes today. Let's figure on the now. And she went shopping and had one of the best, most memorable trips she ever had in her life. And it opened up the world for her, because now she gets on planes all the time and loves it. So it's all about learning the right resources and applying them. Sometimes, I guess, putting your hands on somebody might be helpful, but as you and I know, that's not always the best way to do it, other than in a competition. But if you can help use your hands in a healthy way to touch yourself in a special way, to heal yourself and to relax yourself, that's even more important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, I talk quite a bit about that, and part of it is the physicality of things. You know what I mean? Being hands-on and physical is something that it's just something I enjoy. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
and I'm an old-fashioned guy too, right? Some of the gyms today, right? And when I came up, we'd be at the YMCA. I mean, it was just iron, man. That's all you hear is a clanging of iron everywhere. Clang, clang. And today it's got all these soft weights, you can't really hear the iron like you used to and stuff like that. My home gym is all that. I have all old school gym at my home, right? Everything's iron and iron barbell, dumbbells and the whole 9 yards. But I think the physicality of things for me is but then again, sometimes I call it praying and pushing. So there's days that I just have a really hard day and I struggle, and I'll put some worship music on instead, and that's what I push through, man. So
Yeah, no, exactly. There's so many different ways. It's when we get stuck in this is the only thing that's going to work for me, or I've tried everything. If you haven't tried everything, right? A lot of people haven't met me, haven't used the techniques that I've learned and been able to teach. And I have worked with guys coming back from the war and with definite trauma, and I go, just sit with me for a little while. And it definitely is those loose weights but it really is also, you could feel sometimes what music you need to hear. I mean, that's why when I put on my iPod and put on the music, I always put it on random, and I can have 1950s bebop music,
Mhm.
and then I can also
That's
have
right.
Guns N' Roses and Metallica the next song. It's that, depending on your energy and what you need, and absorb it. And it sometimes smells. Sometimes for people, you just need to cook. It's those memories. That's why we have five senses. And if you're blessed enough, be grateful that you have ability to have five senses. Each one of those senses has an ability to reduce what you're feeling, and it also has not only to reduce what you're feeling if you're feeling something negative. It also has a way to uplift you in the same way. That's what our memory is about. That's using the power within. That's really unleashing yourself in ways that you can't even begin to imagine once you start noticing a different world.
Yeah, that's good. Well, so you got a lot of wisdom coming out now. Is this something that life has trained you in, or have you trained yourself, or what is where is it? Where does your techniques and stuff come from?
Yes. So, when I first learned all these things, I put myself into therapy. I was in anger management, right? So I was angry. I
Mhm.
was having some challenges, and I was like, "What the hell?" And sitting through those things and absorbing it, and then learning some techniques. And I said, "Why am I working through this much quicker than anybody else?" And my therapist at the time was like, "Well, you're a rock star. Nobody works as hard as you do." And then I was able to get trained in a few different techniques, like the rubbing techniques is part of the havening techniques that people don't hear about that often. And you know, I've now worked with people who have experienced severe trauma and now overcome it. And how I explain it is really having the lights on during a horror movie versus the lights off during a horror movie, right? It would be a different experience. So I've learned through it from life. Unfortunately, I've experienced a lot in life. When I start talking about it, I'm like, oh man, I've gone through a lot. And I even trademarked the name, what I call life's process that we go through, cluberty. Until you can get through that moment in life, until you can get that clue of growth, you might just keep living in that old mentality. Hey, Emilio, blessings to you, brother.
Yeah.
Blessings to you and Daniela and your family. Uh, and it really is a situation of once you learn exactly what you need to learn, that's the powerful part. Now, you can make mistakes. You and I have said we've made mistakes in our lives. The opportunity at that point is to learn not only to what mistakes you've made, but also how to grow through them, how to then not make those mistakes again. If you keep making the same mistake over and over again, that's not growth. That's just doing something over and over again. I've learned from each of my mistakes, and some of them have been more painful than others. And, by doing that, that's why when I say I'm a mentor, I've been there. I've not done everything.
Mhm.
There is, again, when I put myself into the anger management, that was a choice I made. That was because I wanted to really see it and to see people who were dealing with it a lot differently with a different mentality. And I was like, okay, that's really one of those things that I need to do differently. And it is some from learned experience, and some of it is from being taught, finding the right mentors. We all need mentors, and having the right mentors is so valuable.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. I know we talked a little bit about anger management because I did the same thing, right? I saw that I had to go through something, and then I did the same thing. I did what you did. I met privately, and then the guy kind of pushed me about, hey, do you want to try this? You want to try the class out? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. And then, of course, when I went to class, I'm like, gosh, I'm the mellow one out of this group. You know what I mean? I'm like, holy criminy. I mean, these guys are bashing people up against the walls and every other thing, right? And I had these tendencies to, um, and I don't know. I don't know where you found that the anger came from, right? I don't know. I guess the divorce is one thing, right? I think from a man's perspective, it's not the divorce as much as I felt kind of like I failed at something, right? And I'm pretty competitive as it is, right? And I'm like, man, I tried everything, and I still the marriage still failed, right? And I just couldn't. That failure is not. And see, in my world, failure is not an option. It's just not an option. Well, you're gonna have to figure out what's up, and unfortunately that was the option, and so I couldn't. I didn't know what to do, and I did the same thing. I said I got to get some techniques on this, or I'm gonna walk around looking for a fight. I mean, that's what I did. I was like, I mean, I'm not a bar type guy, so I don't drink. I don't get stupid like that, um, but I will go into the bar to start a fight.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, you know what I mean, to make me feel better. And then, going through the techniques, I'm like, gosh, I'm gonna hurt somebody, and then I'm gonna really be up, Schitt's Creek without a paddle, man, because I'm not gonna be able to come back from it. And I think that's what I really learned, and I do it today. I don't know if I ever told you the story of. I should have told this story. People freak out on. I remember being, this young martial arts instructor, and I'm teaching courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit, and I would go through what all this means and self-control and how to have it. And then I'm making a left into Costco, and this car runs the red light, and I just flip them off like that, right? I'm like, man, boom. And as I'm doing that, I'm watching him go past me, and it's a female, and it's one of the moms at my karate studio that I just did that to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I coming back from that? And I remember a whole day so stressed out, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to bring her in the office. You know what I mean? And so I bring her in the office, and I say, hey, I have no excuse for what I did. It's just a complete apology. But I can tell you this: that was a life lesson for me today. I can guarantee you that'll never happen again.
Yeah,
And it
go ahead.
And so I was like, I just didn't know what, I just didn't, but it never healed, right? It was a crack that never healed. The kid never got a black belt from me. And so I was like, man, and, and guess what? This is so many years ago, 20 years ago, his last name was Ziegler. And I had heard that he's been on the streets and in doing drugs. And then I come to find out 2 months ago, he passed away on a drug overdose. And I'm like, oh man, I never had that kid because of my freaking behavior. Not that it would have made change anything, but it's just one of those thought processes in my head, right? And that's what happened. And so my anger,
it's tough.
flipping
And
somebody
one
off.
of the things that I learned is we take it all personal, right? So like if somebody cuts us off, that guy cut me off. He's really just driving, right? Or she's just driving in your case. They're just driving. That's how they drive all the time. It has nothing to do with you. It could be you. It could be me. It could be anybody else. They're not going out, I'm cutting off Mark. They're just I'm cutting off this guy who's in front of me, right? And I said this once during the this anger management piece, and all these guys looked at me like, "What the fuck is taught?" Really, that was exactly what they all said. It was like it was almost like planned. They go, "What the hell did you just say?" And the guy who was running it, Bill Souls. I love talking about Bill. He goes, could you say that again? And he knew that I was like preaching like exactly what I was doing. And they're like, dude, you are just different. He goes, if somebody cuts me off, I'm going to beat them up. I'm like, all right, that's why you're here. And that's why I'm not. Like, it really is. We take so many things personally. And if we can take things less personally, and have those conversations. Not saying that you need to talk to somebody and hug them who cuts you off. And there are people who are going to try to cut you off because that's just them. It's not you. I mean, I've got into, arguments with people cutting me off. And I grew up in Brooklyn, man. I know how to drive in the city. I know how to protect. I know how to do the defensive driving. And some people just do what they need to do because there's something else within them. And that's why I enjoy when I work with people and I teach them the one piece of life where they actually can then learn it's not about them. And if we start within ourselves, we could be the change in the world. And that's really what I try to do is I try to make sure that I maintain the calm in my world. And then that way it keeps going forward to, all right, Emilio, then you and I got to talk. I'll get you. Got to calm you down, man.
Emilio, you're supposed to go to anger. You're supposed to go to anger management one time, not 3, bro.
Yeah, but that's the thing
not 3, bro.
Again, when I went to anger management, there were people that were there multiple times, court ordered. I was not court ordered.
And I wasn't either.
I'm like, dude, if I got to tell you, if I was court ordered once, if that shit don't wake me up, that's really what it comes down to.
It's so funny. I flew in a day early that Emilio picked me up from the airport, and he took me to the Rocky Steps and stuff. And the next morning, I meet him, and we got to go pick up something. And at the rental place, and we're there, and I'm like, where the frick is he? And I kind of looked there, and here we go. We got 3 guys, and he's already like, I gotta go, and he's already in this. I'm like, Jesus, I just came right to New Jersey to get in a street fight with Emilio at the rental place, man. Right. And so that was just some fun. That's some fun stuff, but that's good. I think it's probably some of the best advice I got from you today, Dave, this little thing about not taking everything so personal, because I guess that's something that we do on a daily. Maybe you're probably, I'm kind of reflecting back on that. You're probably right. You take everything so personal, right? I guess it's just like going to church, right? And the preacher says something, you're like, geez, man, he's talking right to me.
Yep.
So he's talking exactly to me, right? And I think that's the same thing. We might read something on Facebook and say, he's talking to me, that little punk ass. You know what I mean? And it had nothing to do with you at all, right? That's
Right. Yeah,
that's
exactly. That's
which
why
is
I always say to people, I do like texting and everything like that, but we also have to read it not in our heads. Because if you're angry, if I go, "Hey, Mark, what's up?" And if you're having a really bad day, you're like, what do you mean, what's up? You know what's going on. You know what's going on in my life. You're like, what? Dude, I was just saying hi, right? And it's happened, right? Somebody who just goes, or maybe somebody who's close to you might call you a nickname and be like, you're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, nah, it's all good, bro. All good.
it's so true, man. That's why I hate text messaging. I
Yeah.
said, I don't even respond to them half the time. And then when I do, I don't know about you, but millennial texting is what drives me the most, right? Because they do one word texting, like, yes, are you coming? And then it's like 15 in a row. It's like, bang. I'm like, bro, okay, now you're pissing me off, man. Just pick up the phone, man. I can't deal with the text messaging, and it always goes awry, and it goes south. And if you
Mhm.
text message when you're upset, it's just, I don't know, man. You're correct. That's great advice today, Dave. We're approaching an hour 5. I could spend some more time with you, but
Well, I'll
I'll tell
come
you
back on
this.
it. I love talking to you, and we got to get you on Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely got
It's
to put
always
you on that.
fun, right? Because we have guests and we get to, I tell everybody I'm kind of selfish when I have guests because I'm kind of fishing for things in my own life that I struggle with. And then people like yourself come on and I'm like, wow, that really kind of hit for me and stuff like that. And I know this, if it's hitting for me, it's hitting for other people too. Right. And so, it comes out and I'm sure you're the right thing. When you're I listened to some of your podcasts in the last week, right? And now I got you on. I'm going to tell everybody too.
Awesome.
Love, peace, and baseball bat. Right. If
Peace,
you
love, and
guys to
blessings.
help us podcasters out, if you want to show love to us, the best way to do it is to, number 1, review our show. Number 2 is subscribe to our show. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. You can get peace, love, and a baseball bat on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Correct.
Yep,
And
Apple,
all
Amazon,
that.
it's
Right.
all over.
Right. Same with mine at Real Talk. And if you want to help us, guys, that you guys that are kind of re-listening or on the replay, if you would go and subscribe to it and leave a review, that's what helps podcasters. This is a weird thing about podcasting. It's not the amount of downloads that we get that put us up on the charts. It's the amount of subscribers that come subscribe and give us
Yeah.
reviews. It's just a weird thing. So I keep forgetting to say that every time I do a podcast, but that's how you guys can help us out. So if you are on here, go subscribe to his show. And a shameless plug, you might as well do it onto mine while you're at it. And then
Yeah,
all of a sudden they start popping up, and
definitely. Yeah. So, just like I always say, peace, love, and bring a bat, man. That's what it is you bring a bat in your life, hit your sweet spot and knock it out of the park. Do the best you can. And I can't wait to kind of do some more real talk with Mark Cox.
yeah, that is going to be great. Now, listen, you're going to be in LA. You're got another talk that's coming up that you're going to
Yep.
be speaking at. Make sure I get that information. I want the day that I come and see you is the day that you're going to be speaking. So I want to make sure that I come
Yeah, I'm speaking Friday and Saturday. So I'll definitely, there's
Friday and
definitely
Saturday.
flexibility. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm locking up the times.
get stuff
I'll
to
get
me.
you the
I'm coming.
information. You
Yeah,
got it.
I'm absolutely coming, and we'll have some time after that. It'd be really good. I appreciate your time, Dave. It was really fun. Emilio and all you guys that came on. Sal, Daniela's on there. Hey, we love your family. We know you had a major loss in that. I know what major loss is, man.
Yeah.
I've been there. Been not my folks yet. I'm not looking forward to that day,
Yeah.
but I know how we go. So. All right. I appreciate it, Dave. We're going to sign
All right.
it. We'll
God bless.
send off, and I love you guys, man.